An Ohio State player wins a Player of the Year award. Buckeyes continue to move in and out of the transfer portal. And the Big Ten makes a statement about canceled games and how they will view them going forward. All that and more in this episode of Locked on Buckeyes.
You are Locked on Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked on Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Thursday, December 23rd in the year 2021, and today's episode is brought to you by NetSuite. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system to power your growth. Head to netsuite.com/lockedonncaa for special end-of-year financing on the #1 financial system for growing businesses. I would also like to thank every person out there for making Locked On Buckeyes their first listen of every single day. Award season, it started back at the beginning of December. We're still going right on through with that very thing to this day. And our friend, your friend, we all love him, the big man in the middle, Mr. Haskell Garrett, has won and been named the Polynesian College Football Player of the Year. We have to be specific about college football because this committee, they do announce a high school Player of the Year for the Polynesians and a Polynesian NFL Player of the Year. So they have all three levels, and this year's winner is Mr. Haskell Garrett. The very first year this award that it was announced was in 2014, went to Marcus Mariota, also ended up winning the Heisman Trophy that year. Some other winners are Ronnie Stanley, former offensive lineman at Notre Dame in 2015-2016, Sifu Lufa, quarterback from Colorado, 2017 Hercules Mata'afa, Washington State defensive lineman, 2018 Tua Tagovailoa, 2019 Panay Sewell from Oregon, offensive lineman for the Ducks. This is an amazing thing. This is amazing for Haskell Garrett because not only is he a fifth-year defensive tackle, but he's had a weird or different type of journey, encountered some things that most people don't encounter while they're playing the football. And in a season where a team needed a solid piece up front, where a team needed a leader on the defensive side of the football, Haskell Garrett was just that. He led the team with 5.5 sacks on the season and also led the team with 7 tackles for loss. He was named first-team All-Big Ten this year, second-team All-American via the AP, and he is the first Ohio State football player to win this award. The award will be presented at the 2022 Polynesian Hall of Fame celebration dinner on January 22nd. There will also be a recognition of Haskell Garrett during the 2022 Polynesian Bowl. Ohio State also was 19th in the country in rushing yards per game at 118.5. Haskell Garrett's presence in the middle, up front at that defensive tackle position is a huge reason why. Sometimes I firmly think for myself, can't speak for anybody else, that I don't truly appreciate Haskell Garrett as much as I do. I'm a big fan of Haskell Garrett. We got the big man touchdown, rumbling, fumbling, stumbling all the way to the end zone. But sometimes you take for granted those individuals that are up front on the offensive or defensive lines. For example, Ryan Kelly, Quentin Nelson. I'm a big Indianapolis Colts fan. When those two guys are not on the field, there is generally a big hole or a void right there at the center or left guard's positions. Ryan Kelly is currently with his wife. They recently had a miscarriage, lost their baby. And then also, Quentin Nelson has battled injuries all season long. Even this isn't his first time battling injuries. And when you lose one of those two guys, there is a hole there in that position. The same thing goes to the Ohio State defensive line. If you lose a defensive end let's just say specifically, what was it, 2018, Nick Bosa had an abdominal injury, and he ended up not leaving the team. He ended up not coming back to the season to prepare properly for himself based off his current situation for the NFL draft. Losing Nick Bosa at that time was huge. Yes, Chase Young on one side, Nick Bosa on the other. That would have been amazing to see at that time. Losing Nick Bosa, that's a notable hole, a visible thing, and that's something that not only you can see, opposing fans will notice, broadcasters will notice, so on and so forth. Think about Joey Bosa. Think about Chase Young. Was the 2019 season? Think about all of these players that are on the defensive line or even offensive lines. If you lose them, it's noticeable. Sometimes just maneuvering certain things will be noticeable. The Ohio State offensive line this year, there were some shuffling things that were happening there. And sometimes when you shuffle things around, there are noticeable differences, things that happen pre-shuffling and post-shuffling. When Haskell Garrett's not on the field, there is a noticeable difference. And it's one that I'm not really a fan of. I think he should have played more. I love what he brings to the table. I love his leadership ability. I love his presence and him causing opposing offensive lines to consistently know where he is on the field at all times. And to be named the Polynesian College Football Player of the Year, out of all of the individuals that are of Polynesian descent that play college football, of all the individuals that have played phenomenal football that could be in the running for this award at the end of the year, it goes to this man. It goes to him. Think about, okay, let's just take this into a smaller perspective. Think about your job, your immediate team. You have a team of 20 people now. There's more than 20 people that are Polynesian descent that play college football, which is why we're using a smaller number. Out of 20 people, there are 10 of you that do a phenomenal job at one task, and all of a sudden your boss says, hey, we're going to pick one of you as the leader or the man of the hour, we may say, for this little task here. All of a sudden, it goes to you. We go from a group of 20 to then 10 that do it very, very well, and then it goes to you. Same type of thing, but on a bigger scale when it comes to Haskell Garrett being named and awarded the Polynesian College Football Player of the Year. It couldn't have gone to a better man. Very excited it went to an Ohio State Buckeyes. You are tapped into Locked On Buckeyes here on a Thursday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. I want to remind every person out there, the Buckeyes take the field on New Year's Day. We will be preparing you and help you get ready for the game all next week. There will be a show tomorrow on Christmas Eve. I hope everyone's preparing and is ready to have fun on Christmas Day. Watch, there's a bowl game on Christmas. There's NBA basketball, NFL football on Christmas. I mean, Browns fans will be probably watching the Browns. I know they let you down on Monday night. Hopefully they don't let you down again twice in the same week. But here on the podcast, we'll be getting you ready for the bowl game, the Rose Bowl. Things that the offense can do, they need to change. Same thing for the defense. Be tapped in, tuned in, ready to go right here tomorrow and all week long, leading you up to the granddaddy of them all. Not only do we have a player in Haskell Garrett winning a Player of the Year award, but we also have players at the Buckeyes continuing to move in and out of the portal. To this point in time, since the beginning of August, there have been 11 players, 11 Buckeyes that have moved into the portal and out of the portal. Some have not found a home just yet. Shortly before recording this podcast tonight, there is another individual that has announced where he's going to play the football next season. We're going to go from the August to present day. You're going to see the movement. It's a lot, and I think there will be more players entering the portal. Some may be walk-ons. Some may be individuals that are redshirt freshmen that you think should stick around, that could be a big part of the future next 2 or 3 years. But they say, nope, my time in Columbus is over. Remember Ryan Jacoby? Transferred to Pittsburgh. I believe he was a 3-star offensive lineman. Talked about him before the season. Ryan Jacoby into the portal in August. Dallas Gant, Kayvon Pope into the portal during the season. Austin Kutcher Every time I see this name, I want to say Ashton Kutcher. I want to, but it's Austin Kutcher, senior wide receiver walk-on. He entered the portal, I believe, earlier this week. Amir Reap entered the portal during the season. I believe it was officially on November the 28th. Jack Miller III transferred to the University of Florida. Quinn Ewers transferred to the University of Texas. Craig Young transferred to the University of Kansas. Jagger LaRoe, walk-on quarterback, is currently in the portal. Ryan Watts, cornerback, transferred to the University of Texas. That was the one that was recently announced shortly before starting and recording this year's podcast. And then Darian Henry Young, four-star defensive lineman, redshirt freshman, early enrollee in 2020, gets to campus, alteration of the offseason program, can't really get the work like he thought he was going to. Would we have a season? Would we not have a season? This year, 2021, didn't see the playing time or didn't really see much, if any, at all. All of a sudden, Darian Henry Young is now in the portal. I like Jack Miller III to Florida. Quinn Ewers, TBD, to be determined. Ryan Watts, I do think down there at the University of Texas, they will help build him up to be a phenomenal football player. I have my own reservations for Quinn Ewers. We'll talk about those at a later date. But this is different. Think about how it is for Ryan Day. I want to tie in a little connection to what Vanderbilt did in the offseason, something we might see Ryan Day do in the near future. For Ryan Day, a football coach, became on the coaching staff in 2017, was interim head coach in 2018 for the first 3 games when Urban was suspended for the whole Zach Smith situation. And Ryan Day, when he first took over the job, or when he first came to Columbus, that is, not taking over as he head coach, the transfer portal was not here. The NIL money was not like it is, right? It wasn't a thing. Well, okay, it wasn't legal. It was happening illegally. I do believe it has been for quite a long time. But now the NIL is legal, which has opened up a well full of money for the individuals that are playing college football at Ohio State and around the college football landscape. But when Ryan took over the job, things were different for him, different for the players. The difficulties, the task, the things that his day-to-day operation was similar, but still different. The things he thought about on a random Tuesday are different than what he thinks about on a random Tuesday now. On a Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock Eastern, he was not thinking about transfer portal. He was not thinking about NIL. He was not thinking about would we or would we not play in the Rose Bowl. We'll talk more about that in the final segment of today's show. These were things that he was not thinking about. And then in 2020, all 3 of those things have been there. NIL money, the 2020 season, transfer portal prior to the 2020 season, and then COVID, the response of it, not the virus, but the response of it. Would we or would we not play in the game? Very, very interesting about how things are different for Ryan Day now than they were when he took over. One thing Vanderbilt did last year, at the time, I thought it was very interesting. I had not heard about this move at all from a college football team or athletic department. And they ended up hiring Barton Simmons, who worked for CBS Sports and 24/7 Sports, a recruiting analyst. He was on the Cover 3 podcast. Really good insight, really good, phenomenal when it came to analyzing the recruits. Vanderbilt hired Barton Simmons to be the general manager. Let me go to Twitter really quick to get his proper term. It's not the best podcasting, but I believe it's the best way to get you the proper information for what the subject is at this time. Barton Simmons, I used to love listening to him on the Cover 3 podcast. He is the general manager of Vanderbilt football. That move right there, to me, and it was announced, he put it on Twitter January 14th of 2021, hashtag anchor down. For him at that time, I know that he is a great analyzer and he's a great viewer of the football. I never knocked that, but general manager of football? Why would a school, this is a thought that went through my head, why would a school who is not known for having any success on the football field, why would they go out and have a general manager of football? Maybe it's a step in the right direction with the way that the transfer portal is, with the way that NIL is. You have one person that is a general manager of that specific thing, football. He can help you decipher managing the roster. Yeah, that's Ryan Day's job, yes. But Ryan Day has so much on his plate. If there's somebody else there to help manage him, not manage him, manage the roster. Also, it's not only that, he's going to have more insight. Now, I'm not saying the Ohio State coaching staff does not have insight into the Quinn Ewers thing that was broken by Pete Thamel, a national college football reporter. I am not saying that they don't have the insight on Ryan Watts or Darian Henry Young or Jack Moe III or Craig Young. I'm not saying they don't have all of that, but it's easier to manage it when it's not the same man that's the head coach or the director of recruiting. It's different when it's somebody that's simply there to manage the entire roster. Would also help you in recruiting to know more of, hey, we have a hole right here. This individual might fill said hole, fill the need that's right here. It's a phenomenal thing. And with it being 11 players so far, this goes back to the beginning of August. I believe Ryan Jacoby entered the portal on August 9th or August 10th. To where we are currently now, it's being recorded December 22nd. I do think there'll be more Buckeyes entering the portal very, very soon. It's just the way that the cookie crumbles and the way that college sports are right now. Volleyball portal is full. Basketball portal is full. Soccer, hockey. Think about it. This isn't just football. Players can maneuver in any sport. One-time immediate transfer. Very, very weird to think about. This is a tough thing for Ryan Day. But I do think Ryan Day is up to the task. Ryan Day can't handle this. But this is just weird, man. Another way that college football in 21 has drastically changed. And I think it will continue to change quicker than anybody realizes that it's going to. You're tapped into Locked On Buckeyes here on a Thursday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Once again, I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Buckeyes their first listen of every single day, as well as for everyone out there that is hopping on this train. Hey, remember, if you tag me in a picture of you listening to Locked On Buckeyes, you don't have to take a video and put it out there. Just take a picture of your phone, screenshot on your phone, your car, or you're listening to it on your player, in your dash, or wherever you are on your computer. Take a picture of whatever it is, post it on Twitter, tag me in that tweet at jsteven07. Instagram story, tag me in that same handle at jsteven07. We'll gladly share that thing, retweet it, hit it on my Instagram story so more people know where you get all of your Ohio State news. The Ohio State football and basketball podcast covering your Ohio State Buckeyes, which is Locked On Buckeyes. A lot of extra words there. Not sure why that happened, but one thing I am very curious about, and I'm curious to hear more of why the Big Ten Conference continues to drop the ball in one specific area. We were vocal about it last year. Going to be more vocal about it right now. Ohio State basketball team has had to date 2 games canceled. Could be more down the road, but to date, 2 games canceled. The CBS Sports Classic against the University of Kentucky last Saturday, that was canceled. The game that was supposed to be played on Tuesday of this week against UT Martin in Columbus, that one was canceled, both due to COVID-19 concerns inside the basketball program. However, those are not the only games that have been canceled or postponed in the Big Ten Conference. Let's just go back to Saturday the 18th. I can go back further and talk about more. On Saturday the 18th, Northwestern's game was canceled. Penn State's game was canceled. Rutgers' game was postponed. Let's keep going. There was a game supposed to be played on Tuesday, Michigan. That game was canceled against Purdue Fort Wayne. The game, Penn State was supposed to play a game on Wednesday. That game has been canceled. Wisconsin's game on today has been canceled. Rutgers' game on today has been postponed. On Tuesday, December 28th, no games have been canceled or postponed as of next week, but you get the gist. There's a lot of cancellations. There are still postponements. There are still things that schools are doing differently from each other as far as testing, their protocols, things of that nature. In the Big Ten Conference, I want to read you this tweet. Now, this was tweeted out via a statement from the Big Ten Conference forfeiture policy, or that was there. Dr. James Bushers, MD, MPH, was the one that put this out there. President and co-founder, U.S. Council for Athletes Health, Big Ten Conference Chief Medical Officer, was the one that put this together. Adam Jardy from the Columbus Dispatch been on the podcast. Got to meet Adam when I was at the Wisconsin basketball game. He'll be back on the podcast. Going to try to get it back on sometime very, very soon. Here is the policy. Here's what the Big Ten has to say about forfeitures. Some things make sense. Some things do not. Let's listen to what they have to say. Quote, the Big Ten Conference is in the process of evaluating its 2021-22 forfeiture policy for conference contests, including whether a contest should automatically be considered a forfeit. The health, safety, and well-being of our student athletes and our campus communities is our top priority. We will continue to work diligently and collaboratively with the Big Ten Conference administrators, council, chancellors, and presidents, the Task Force for Emerging Infectious Diseases, and the Sports Medicine Committee to determine next steps, end quote. Let's take a little step here. I might get a little animated because let's realize where we are currently present day. You're listening to this or watching this via YouTube. Subscribe, hit that like button, hit that bell. Stay notified every time a video goes live. Really appreciate it. It helps the show grow organically, which is what we want. COVID-19 officially entered the country sometime at the beginning of 2020, possibly at the end of 20. I do believe it entered the country at the end of 2019, March of 2020. Rudy Gobert tests positive in the NBA. It gets blown up. Everybody hears about it. And next thing you know, the NBA suspends play. What happens? The NCAA tournament is canceled. Conference tournaments, they're stopped. Ivy League, I believe, even had a tournament. Tennis, well, football was not in season. Baseball was suspended. All NHL, all of these things were altered, suspended, postponed due to what happened. I do believe that the NBA, if they didn't do that thing where they suspended play, I'm not sure if the other leagues follow suit. NBA has a lot of power right now and a lot of influence based off of really how they're marketed. ESPN does a phenomenal job of that. And so think about that. March 2020 was when people started to alter how they approached COVID-19. There was a college football season last year where the Big Ten, hey, we're going to release a schedule on a Wednesday or a Thursday. Hey, over the weekend, there's going to be rumors that we're not going to have a season. A few days later, after they released the revised schedule, all of a sudden, I believe less than a week after they released the revised schedule, they said there will not be a season. They ended up having a season. 8 or 9 games in 9 weeks. I think it was 8+1, but they still didn't have the +1 because they still didn't have the crossover games at the end of the season during championship week like we thought they would. 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, 6 versus 6, etc., etc. The person from the opposite side of the conference that it coincides with your ranking in your in your division. Great, go for it. So we see how all that went for college football last year. We saw college basketball, some games were canceled. The college basketball conferences, they do have a governing body. The NCAA does run college basketball, but they still allow conferences to rule and govern their own schools in certain situations. So one thing's very interesting. What they just said could have been said, just change the dates as far as what happened during last season. We're still going to be evaluating. Let me look at this again. We're in the process of evaluating. So you mean to tell me this whole entire time you've been in the process of evaluating for over a year? You mean you've got no process, no progress, haven't gotten anything better versus what happened last year this time versus this time? Let's make it make sense. One of the biggest problems with Kevin Warren, and I don't even know if this is Kevin Warren's fault. This may be those people that are part of the college basketball committee, that part there, that have not. And he's like, hey, I'm not going to overstep my boundaries. I trust you to get things done. So be it. He is the face. He's not always the person that is making the decisions. Sometimes he's the voice of the person, to be the person that ends up relaying that. They've got nowhere at all. If you want to cancel a game, it's a conference game, great. Are you going to postpone a game? Great. I would initially announce, hey, we're going to postpone a game, a conference game, or any game. So you still have a chance to make up that game or find an opponent like Kentucky did on Wednesday to fill that void if your opponent cannot play. But the Big Ten Conference, we're still worried about, is it going to be a forfeiture? Is it going to be a cancellation? Is it going to be a postponement? If you don't have enough players to play, forfeit the game. I understand why you want to go ahead and say, let's treat this different. No, treat it like you should treat it. If you don't have enough players to play a game, it's a forfeit. High school, forfeit. NBA, they can bring guys off the street, a different type of thing. But if you don't have enough guys that are able to play, it's a forfeit. Postpone that thing. If it's a cancellation right at the top, forfeit it. Unfortunately, really got a no contest. Money's up and confuses everybody. It's a forfeit. It sucks. It's unfortunate. It's an easy solution. But once again, the Big Ten Conference keeps delaying, pushing back, waiting, pushing back and waiting. They could be at the forefront and be the trendsetter. They want to be at the back and follow the crowd. Come on. We've had enough time to figure this thing out. This isn't our first rodeo. Y'all have enough time to decide forfeits, no contest, everything that goes into that. But the Big Ten Conference continues to drag their feet. It's not really the best move for what we're going through right now. Guys, it's a Thursday, the 23rd, Christmas in a couple days. Enjoy the time together. We'll be back. We'll ramp up. We'll continue to ramp up bowl conversations. If you did not listen to Tuesday's episode with Brian Brown, from Locked on YouTube, I want to do that. A little early look at the Ohio State-Utah matchup, what to expect from both teams in Pasadena, California. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can also send all of your emails to jstevens317 at gmail.com. We'll be back tomorrow. For today, we are out. Have a great day. Finish up your shopping and make sure you always let everyone know that being a Buckeye is one of the best things in the world.